coming off the most recent National Road Series race, Strada Nero, Tour King Valley, which was just on the weekend. So there should be some really good informed riders here tonight.
Definitely, we did see a very strong field across New Zealand and the Australian Championships, and a good feedback from the community as well that they really enjoy the event. So as we can see on screen now, it looks like they're well underway, and we're actually on the Innsbruck course tonight. So the World Champs course, Pat, you know that climb, that little bit of a kicker in it. It's about an 8K circuit, and there's a little bit of a pinch in it. Have you felt that?
I felt it all right. It's not a little bit of a pinch at the current form I've got, but Jesper and I have kind of nicknamed it the leg snapper. And it certainly does that in the chop event, which you've also seen take place on Thursday nights. But it'll be interesting to see how this group races it, because I think this is actually one of the better circuits to race the Ecrit on. Although it's a bit longer lap and it's got a bigger hill in it, it does give the opportunity for someone to hit up the climb the final time and go solo to the line. So we should see some exciting racing, much like what we saw in the Australian Championship.
Yeah, it should sort of with the course definitely should sort of unravel probably a similar format. I mean, the we have a lot of riders across also from the team situation part of it. You know, we'll see a few Wolfpack Taz in there. So Johnson was quite quite responsive, went on the attack. So good to see him back here tonight. And as I'm giving that shout, it looks like he's doing a little bit of a dip off the front here, stretching legs. So as well as this course being a little bit different in format, obviously his first time we've run the Australian Kiss Crit on this circuit. So it's 3 laps in total. So it should be about 24K. So it's a little bit of a shorter event as well tonight. So that could come into the hands of some do like go on a breakaway and make it a distance that could happen on the race, couldn't it, Pat?
Well, certainly, if someone can make a move early on and get a big enough gap, but it also the break over the top of the climb does offer a really good downhill run. Big group can still harm down onto a solo leader. We've seen that in the chop as well, where C or D grade comes over the top of the climb in the lead, but that big bunch from behind still scoops them up. So it's really going to be interesting to see. We'll probably know a lot more after the first ascent up the leg snapper and see how the group breaks up and what happens. But certainly Zach Johnson was a really strong rider in the national championships the other weekend, and I think he'd probably be the one to watch on this course tonight. Tim Cutler's in there, although he didn't do the national championship. He was very aggressive, should I say, in the Ecrits leading into the national championship. So we also see James Hepburn on there. It's good to see him back on the bike after a bit of hiatus.
And yeah, we've also got Cameron Roberts in there as well, was second in the Australian Championship. So some good names there, for familiar names that we've seen across the creams and also the chop as well on the handicap event. So tonight also we can see that we've got T. Cutler as well. So I mentioned Cutler earlier as well, Pat.
Yeah, well, Tim Cutler, it's an interesting one. He's had a few health issues, but really he has a huge engine when he is healthy. Much like Cam Roberts, though, he is extremely good at producing the power. Neither of the two, neither of the two are really aerodynamic.
Certainly with the likes of the team situation, and we saw a lot of the Olive racing as well getting highly involved. I think they had at least 3 or 4 teammates in the Australian Championships. So it does come to effect as well with this style of racing. It can impact just out like you said, out in the world. If you have teammates on here, it can help as well and come to your advantage. So as we see these riders start to sort of bustle it out up over this little bit of a rise here, Pat, I think as soon as we hit this climb here, I reckon Zach is probably going to be the first person to make a call on going for a breakaway.
Yeah, well, he's always ultra aggressive, and the thing I like about Zach is certainly the fact that he's happy to work with anyone at any time in the race. So whether it be Cameron Roberts, who's been one of the strongest in the Ecrit, whether it be Aaron Dunn, his own teammate from the Wolfpack Tasmania team, he always is happy to drive the group, and actually is one of the guys that makes the E-Crit the hardest race on Zwift. And he also loves to get involved on a Thursday night for the Chop, which is an event that really suits that style of riding.
Certainly, yeah, it does. We're getting a few outs also on the teams across the Facebook as well, getting a few chats. So Victor's saying it's a nice way to wake up, and would love a shout on the stream. So g'day Victor, thanks for tuning in. Luke Potter also giving it a ride on. Any predictions as well, or any thoughts, please feed them through, and I'll do my best to call them out. But it looks like everyone's sort of settled here. There's not too much of an urgency here now. I think with this course as well, Pat, and the format it is, everyone's sort of looking at each other. Usually we'd have seen some attacks by now. Everyone's sort of hanging pretty tight up there. Andrew Ballas also up there. Andrew is one of the lieutenants for the Aussie Hump Day. So great to see Andrew in there amongst there and having a bit of a dig. We can see a lot of nice flowing Tron bikes here. So plenty of experienced Swifters in here tonight. So as we start to roll up the climb here now, we can see it start to unleash here, Pat, now. Some watts being laid down. So we have Ellis coming out of the pack there now, 600, 700 watts, and the heart rate is skyrocketing up towards that 190. Very high cadence there, and that 110 cadence. So looking to try and make a bit of a move here now. Hopefully someone come across up to 190 heart rate. He hasn't come down over 600 watts yet. He's holding that. His avatar is showing that by being up out of the saddle here now. Actually, we've got some power, what do you call it? Sorry, some power is being used there. Also some featherweight. So coming over the top of this brow here now. It doesn't look like the pack is really splitting up too much here as they're about to roll down and get a bit of a rest here now, Pat. So not too much damage done there the first time up the hill, but I'm sure that's going to start to take a toll.
Oh, I think it did a bit more damage than it looks like in the pictures. We'll certainly see that transpire now on the rest of this lap before they come back for the second ascent of the leg snapper. We speak about cadence being a crucial aspect on Zwift, and we saw that then over 100 revs per minute, which really gives you the ability to maintain that high power, particularly on steep climbs, but certainly isn't an easy way of riding, because obviously that higher cadence also promotes a higher heart rate. So it was interesting to see that high power, high cadence and high heart rate from Alice, but will he be able to do that again the second time around? I'm not too sure, particularly with this being a shorter race tonight as well. So 24 kilometres, as you mentioned, at the top of the stream, whereas we just got a glimpse of Troy Herfoss. He's back in there as well. I know he'll be after some glory tonight.
Absolutely. Troy Herfoss had a really good crack in the Australian Championships as well. Unfortunately, he had some mechanical issues as well, but he just sort of faded there that last part. I think he had some issues with his internet. So see him in amongst you here tonight as well. He surely is wanting to try and follow those moves when it goes up on that climb. And being a shorter style race probably suits his character of riding as well. This nice short, sharp, sort of punchy efforts suits. And also, obviously, Cam Roberts, Zach will probably be the main two, I reckon, instigators when we come over that climb the second time through. I think there's some laid down. We did see Ela have a crack there that first time up the climb. And Anthony Porter has just joined in the chat as well. Great to see Anthony join in, one of the E-Crit finalists of last year that we had in Melbourne at the Rafa store. So looks like a smaller sort of a group here now, even though the watts weren't laid down too much there in terms of the bunch stringing out and come back together quite quickly. It looks like a few have been dropped off here. We see out in front here is that Herfoss out in front here now on his own. So Herfoss is going.
Yeah.
It's not sorry. I'm just trying to get that through there. No, and it doesn't look like it's Herfoss. It looks like out the front it is Cutler actually. So mentioned earlier. So Cutler with the shout out there in the all stealth black kit he's gone for. So great to see Cutler off the front here and probably trying to instigate something, because he may not feel like he has the power to surge with that sort of that effort that's going to be probably laid down on the climb. So he's trying a different tactic here, Pat.
Yeah, this is the type of riding Tim will do. He'll try and stretch it out. He can hold that 400 watts for a long period of time. He's in the 70 kilo or the high 60 kilos weight bracket. He's a tall rider, has big pistons to drive those pedals, and it really does suit him, this type of course. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him at least change the result in tonight's race. Doesn't mean he'll win it, but he has had a big ditch late on the Volcano circuit recently to try and take it out. But what we can see is what we expected on the leg snapper. The group broke up, but more importantly, you see how the group staggered. Normally, we're used to seeing in the E-Crit that the bunch comes together and it fattens up as such, just like a big belly. But you're not seeing that tonight because I think everyone's sort of just hanging in there at the moment, biding their time, thinking if I can survive this next 3 or 4 minutes, I'll be okay. Well, unfortunately, by that time, they're going to come around and do the leg snapper the second time. I think we're really going to see an elastic band break at that point.
We certainly will. And Cutler hasn't come off the front here either, Pat. He's still at the front here. So looking to keep the pace sort of high there. He was at that 400 watt mark. He's eased it back slightly now, back around that 300. As I say that, he's dropped the cadence as well, Pat, here, down to that 70 range cadence now, 76. So hasn't quite got the heart rate motor on there as well with that. So we can't quite see how hard he's beating away there. But we can certainly see that he's laying the watts down. It looks like there's a bit of a move going off the front here now as well. I'm not sure if that was part of the crit race or not. It looks like someone's out in front here. It is Zach, actually. So Zach has taken a fly here and started to stir up this pace early on. He'd seen that Cutler's up there. Cutler looks like he's still towards the front now. It's actually Roberts on the front here. And we can see the orange powers going there now. So that they're going over that 7 watts per kilo. I think he's on nearly 8 watts per kilo there now. So he's actually dragging everyone back up at the moment. So not probably the best move for Zach, but certainly close that gap down, Roberts now. So Roberts is one of those riders that usually likes to instigate these sort of moves. So good to see that that Roberts is taking this on. Zach has gone back up to that 10 watts per kilo. So he's ready to try and move on with this now.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see a very tough race tonight, Wes, because we're on this Innisbrook course, and it's the first time the E-Crit's come here. The first winner on the Innisbrook course for the E-Crit's going to carry some sort of, pride as such. And I think we see Cam Roberts and Zach Johnson go head-to-head almost every other week on the E-Crit. So can it be one of those two? I don't know. I think someone might come out of the woodwork tonight, and potentially that could be a Tim Cutler, or maybe it's someone more noted like Troy Herfoss. But I certainly think that this course really offers the opportunity to someone that races smart. And I think as much as the E-Crits always carry a lot of respect, certainly winning around this tougher circuit is something that your more experienced and more acclaimed riders will want to win on this circuit.
Yeah, it will certainly come to your advantage if you know how to ride on Zwift, because it is quite challenging, this circuit as well. But with that knowledge of how to ride and how to race on Zwift is a definitely component that'll come into play. We did see Boom Bike in there as well, so we usually get across these crit streams, the Aussie crit streams, we usually get a few Boom Bikes jumping in there. So good to see the Boom Bikes are welcome back. Hopefully they do tune in the stream, because we give them plenty of shout outs. We actually had a Boom Bike finish, I think, up there I reckon it was on the Volcano circuit, finished 2nd or 3rd in one of the rounds, just got rolled on the line. So good to see the Boom Bikes in there in action. That's in Korea, in a studio in the middle of the city there. So we're now, as we're talking way Pat here, it looks like the pace is still held pretty high. Then they're sort of not really bunched up there. You can see the front of the pack here now is quite lined out. There's still the watts being laid down here. And out in front, it looks like we have a rider, is Jay Slade off the front here.
Well, I can tell you something about this leg snapper, Wes. When I rode recently on this course, I thought I'll really give this a bit of a rev just to see what it feels like for these riders on the E-Crit and the chop. And I got about halfway up, and I was just looking down at the stem and sort of trying to keep the power up. I looked up, I didn't realise I was only halfway up. I thought, I'll be cresting this climb surely. And I was only halfway up, so it's a lot harder and a lot longer than it seems on camera or on the stream that we see here on the night. So earlier we saw Alice pushing that sort of 650 to 670 watts on the climb, and I think he was the reason for really splitting up the group. Although the pace remained sustained, he was the instigator. So I'm interested to see what Alice does the second time around, but certainly a lot of these riders wouldn't have race experience on this course.
No, definitely wouldn't have race experience in this course. We see in front now, so he's holding it around that 5 watts per kilo. So he's certainly actually probably distancing the bunch a little bit by the look of it now. So Zach is probably going to have most likely Cameron and Ellis would probably be, and Troy Herfoss with the Gators to try and jump across on the climb. We see an actual American up here now. So hashtag in the draft there is the team that he's riding for. So we see Fraser from Park Life up here as well. So these riders are starting to get a little bit worried about Zach now. So he's out to 12 seconds. So that's a solid gap when you're getting out to 12 seconds. Can easily be on this. Zach let up on the watts on the climb either. He's only 17 years of age, from Tasmania in Launceston, and is a very promising young rider and actually trains a little bit out on the roads with Richie if he comes back into town. So a very bright future for Zach, and great to see him in amongst here getting some great experience racing on Zwift here tonight in the Australian KISS series. So Zach is still at that 100 RPM here now. He's at a 177 heart rate. So he's sitting at that threshold here now. So obviously he's going to know this climb's going to hurt him, Pat. He knows he's going to have to actually probably dig in a little bit harder than he currently now, because he knows those watts are going to be laid down to that 600 to 700 sort of peak. So what is Zach's method moving forward here? Is he going to have to start to dig in and sprint up this climb, or is he going to just let them come across because he knows they're going to close the gap? How's he going to play it out now, Pat?
Well, I always like to think about when you make a move, you want to make a move for a reason. I think what he's done here, just keeping the pressure on the other riders in the group. He's obviously feeling good. He's pushing that 6 watts per kilo, 5.5 to 6.5 watts per kilo, which is going to keep that group at bay until the climb starts. And then I think he's just going to try and maintain that 350, so around that 6.5 watts per kilo on the climb. He'll expect to be brought back. How many will bring him back? We'll wait and see. But what it should do is, with him riding more of a tempo climb, when they go over the top, he'll be in a much better position than the rest of the group that catches him. And so he's just sort of wearing them down. By no means is this particular exercise he's doing right now easy, but he certainly can make it easy by just guiding up here. Although it doesn't look like he wants to take my advice on offer, whereas he's going for it. A long-range attack,
I was just going to
still
say,
10 kilometres to go.
As you were talking about that, he was seeing at 8 watts per kilo, and he's punched up above that 8 watts per kilo into the orange here now. So, and we can see the rest of the pack here. Troy Herfoss is leading the bunch now as well. So we see also Gallagher in there. Is it Gallagher? Count that name. But right. Zach looks like he's laying it down here. So Troy Herfoss is following now, and also there. And then we have Cameron Roberts, and then Rich is behind that. So how down now? I imagine this bunch is going to thin out. We look back at the camera angle here now, and it's quite stretched out. As they come up and crest around this corner, this is where it's really going to bite in. You can see it's 4% and then 3%, and then it's going to come back down. And this is where they're going to have to really try and gain. They can gain a lot of time here on Zach riding effectively together down this descent, because it is a lot quicker. You get that sort of that flow effect of the bunch, and that's where they can gain a lot of time on Zach. So that's where Zach's got to really push off, have to hold a lot higher wattage to try and stay away.
Yeah, they need to work together too, because I don't think they took all that much out of him going up the hill. We'll know when we have a little look at Zach again in a moment's time. We'll see what his heart rate's sitting at. He's 190 beats per minute. That heart's pumping, even for a young fella of 17 years. My heart rate hasn't gone up to 187 beats for 10 years, and I don't look all that excited on getting it up there anytime soon. But he's a real go-getter, this young fella. And recently he's been going in NRS rounds as well. So he's dipping his toe in the deep end in all aspects of cycling, whether it be here on Zwift or also in real-life racing in the National Road Series. And it's great to see. He's got such a big heart. But you just hope he also trains that cycling IQ as well, and learns that there is a bit of craft to the sport of cycling too, and it plays a big role. But he's still got 8 seconds on that group. Cam Roberts pushing to the front. You mentioned Gardner from Draft Racing. He's been really quite active already as well. Wilkie's there as well, just behind. And I can see James Hepburn in there too. So it's a strong group. It was Troy Herfoss that really pushed the power down. But in actual watts per kilo terms, they didn't go up the climb any harder than what Zach Johnson did. But now this is where it's the hard part in Zwift. Riding on your own on the flattest. Troy Herfoss looks like he's opened it up again.
Ooh. And he's got rid of a drafting boost there by the look of it as well. He doesn't want to use that one in the finale. He's probably most likely looking for an aero power up. And we can see that closes that gap very quickly now. 2 seconds to Zach Johnson. And it looks like Cameron Roberts is closely tailed behind, 2 seconds back behind that. So these riders now are starting to wind Zach in. So most likely now, if Cameron Roberts has played it sort of smart, which it seems he has, he's probably most likely to go on the attack after this, knowing that Zach is probably his biggest rival on this course as well. So he probably most likely will do the attack over the top. Maybe I'm instigating that attack by actually calling it out on the stream. I don't know. We'll soon take effect with that, Pat.
Well, it has happened before. We enticed Aaron Dunn quite a few times, and rather than waiting for the sprint, he did go long-range attack. But what I'm seeing here on this Innisbrook course is exactly what I expected. An absolute brutal version of the E-Crit. Adding in that climb, it just gives the ability for those who be aggressive to be rewarded. Initially, it was Alice. He put the pressure on lap 1. Zach Johnson really jammed it in before the climb on lap 2. He stayed away until over the top, came down the descent. They've worked hard to bring him back. But this group is a maximum of 15 riders in here, I reckon, Wes. And I think it's going to go in big pieces the last time up the climb, remembering a shortened version of the race tonight because it's on the new course, on the Innisbrook course, just 3 laps, 24 kilometres. Actually, sorry, that should be 27 kilometres of the 9-kilometre course. So about 10 Ks, I'd say.
About 10 Ks. And it looks like Troy Herfoss is out in front here again with a featherweight being popped this time. So getting rid of another power up because obviously he's most likely looking for that aero power up, the fastest power up in game. And Troy's rocking a pink bike by the looks of it tonight with his Rafa RCC kit as well. So a lot of preparation also goes into the style of your avatar as well for these live stream races. Would you agree with that, Pat?
Oh, certainly. And I tell you what, I don't mind Troy with pink, actually. It might be something for him to get set up for the Nationals. We know in Buninyong this year that he was the rider of the day. Although he didn't win the championships, he certainly won the hearts of a lot of the folk on the sidelines. And many people still ask me up until now, later in the year, who was that guy riding in the black kit in the Nationals? Gee, he was impressive. He was impressive, all right, and he'll be back again in January to try something even bigger again. So I'm a big fan of Troy. And anyone that knows him knows he's just as top as a bloke off the bike as he is on. But he certainly is super competitive, and he never likes anything but first. So he'll be pushing hard to take the win here on the inaugural E-Crit on Innisbrook course.
It seems he goes fast on these 2 wheels here on Zwift, but also fast around a motorbike track as well. So Troy is actually winning this Superbike Australian Series at the moment. So, and racing across other parts of the globe. I've seen he's been in Japan a lot lately as well. And as we get a little bit sidetracked talking about Troy, Zach has decided maybe they'll be listening to the stream, and I'll have a little dig off the front here while we talk about Troy. But it looks like there is a little bit of a reaction there coming from the field. It is actually Boom Bike. I did give the shout out to Boom Bike, and Boom Bike is at 7 watts per kilo, trying to use the drafting boost, trying to get in the draft behind Zach here. So we'll see Gardner up there as well, and then Davis back behind that. So not too much of a gap being opened up here. Looks like it's been going to be sort of annihilated a little bit by that Boom Bike reaction. And it looks like Zach's probably most likely going to come back here now. But it doesn't look like he's give up, actually. It looks like he's still sort of holding that gap. It would depend whether someone else wants to react out of the bunch now, and that will sort of annihilate the break. But at this stage, it looks like that Zach is still continuing pushing on this. I reckon there's most of this race around that 180 to 190 heart rate. I'd really like to see his average watts per kilo after this race, because I reckon it's pretty impressive, Pat.
It certainly is impressive, and I think you'll find that even in the group, the watts per kilo average around this course will be higher, just because of the nature of the course being a bit more difficult. However, we were talking about the power-ups just before. We had Troy Herfoss pop a drafting boost to get across to Zach. He then popped a featherweight, which he probably could have saved for the ascent up the leg snapper. I don't know if on this course just yet there's not enough racing taking place to wonder whether an aero power-up is still the power-up you want to chase. I think you can win on this course with good legs and without a power up versus someone with bad legs and with a power up. Where on a lot of courses, if someone has a aero power up, you're pretty doomed, really. And it's the nature of the racing that the aero power up is the best power up for the sprints. That's the aero helmet for those that are watching that haven't seen it. We'll certainly see a few pops towards the end, but Troy Erfos, he doesn't want to let Zach Johnson have all of the chat sphere tonight, Wes. So Troy, he's going across like he's on his motorbike.
He is. He's motoring across that gap here now. So Troy is sensed that urgency there now, because we cannot let someone like a Zach go away, because he knows that he can hold those watts and sit at that threshold for a long time. We've already seen that for most of the racing tonight. So Troy has sensed that danger, and he's actually probably most likely Troy's looking for a bit of a W tonight as well. So Troy rocking the Rafa kit there with the pink bike. And we also got a few other comments and people joining the stream. It's good to see Jeffrey Keel, who is the South African champion as well. So well done on that win the other day, Jeffrey. Great job. And we also got Oliver Martin joined in the stream as well from Tasmania. So maybe Oliver's getting a little bit of some racing notes ready to join in on some of these. There's some of these races we have during the week. So also on Thursday night, we'll be streaming. Pat and I will be streaming again together. Jesper is away at the moment. If anyone's wondering why I'm covering as the lead anchor, not Jesper anchor, but the lead anchor tonight is me, because Jesper's decided to go be a wild hooligan at the Tour of Britain. So we've got the likes of roughheads of me and Pat Shaw on tonight. So yeah, we'll be on Thursday as well. So that'll be 7:10. That'll be 7:10 on Thursday evening. We'll be there. But it looks like Troy Herfoss has decided now that he's going to sit out here alone and see if anyone's going to start to come across. We see a lot of thumbs popping out the back of Troy's pockets there. So very popular rider tonight. A lot of ride-ons being given. Also Fraser up there from Park Life. And as we just give a little ride-on there, we've unlocked the achievement there of giving ride-on. So also Richard's up here as well. So now these hustling and justling, everyone's sort of looking at each other. We're at that 21K mark now, Pat. It's going to start to come down to the business end this time up the climb.
Yeah, we look out for Cam Roberts to make a move potentially on the climb. I think he might be a little bit scared to go to a sprint. I think he potentially thought he had the Australian Championships wrapped up. Nick White came over the top in a last bound sprint, timed his aero power up to perfection. I know you were speaking about Oliver Martin. He's one of the riders from the National Road Series tuning into the stream. Big shout out to Ollie. He's a good guy. And I think we'll see more of the National Road Series riders jumping on after the Amy's Otway Challenge, which is not this weekend, but the following. It's just a really dense period in the National Road Series, and with so much on the line, they're all trying to do their perfect preparation. And I think a few of them fear the E-Crit, Wes, and I don't think they should. They should too, because it is a tough race, and only those with a strong heart turn up, because well, it's very hard racing. It's backed off a little bit, but still at 5.5 to 6 watts per kilo at the moment as they present themselves at the base of the leg snapper for the third and ultimate time. I really feel that it's now that we'll see a move from Cam Roberts.
Yeah, Cam Roberts is probably the most likely the key rider here. We've only seen sort of cover moves here tonight. Usually we'd see Cam on the attack, so he's maybe holding back a little bit on this course. Also, we don't know what his coach had on the today. Maybe not a lot of effort, so he's conserving a little bit and then saving some for the final. But we'll certainly know once we hit this climb whether we're going to get some action out of Cam Roberts. Giving him those shout-outs as well is probably spurring him on. He's probably building up a little bit of extra steam in the legs as we speak. But it looks like the watts are being laid down the start of this here. Looks like Wilkie has gone on the sort of instigating the moves here now. Then we've got standing over the top. So looks like we've got 600 watts here now. So this isn't a muck around sort of ride up here. Someone's going to launch over the top of this, I'm going to guess. And it looks like we've got a featherweight popped further back there now. But standing is holding that watts there up around that 600 and at 190 heart rate now. So the riders are really pushing up this climb here now. And it's, as you can see, the gradient has kicked up as well. Wilkie has got a bit of a gap here now. Doesn't look like it's probably going to stretch out enough. Cameron Roberts goes over the top now. Cameron Roberts on the wheel of Wilkie. This is where they're going to have to push on the downhill now. Doesn't look like they've quite got the gap though, Pat. I would have expected that to snap there. But Roberts, it looks like he's going to hold on and try and ride this out, because on the downhill here as well, the bunch will naturally sort of start to let up on the pedals a bit. but with that sort of effect of the bunch, it's quite hard to get away from a group here, Pat.
Yeah, certainly. You can see that he's probably on the biggest gear on his trainer at the moment. He's doing still upwards of 100, 110 revs per minute. So he's not really going to get away here, but you can see that little split. 4 riders off the back, about 8 riders in this front group. It was Wilkie. Wilkie, shout out to Wilkie wearing the St Kilda Cycling Club kit. He was very strong up there, and I think he might be one to watch coming down to the finish. Now, this finish is quite interesting. It's very unique on Zwift. So you've got a downhill section now. You have a semi-false flat, and then it starts to come back down towards the water where the canal is, and then we will start just where we are now, and then you do a gradual climb. Well, you'd probably call it more of a false flat, back up towards the finish before one last little bit of a downhill sprint. And while M. Pepper was the first rider to win a race on this course, and he won that in the chop off B grade. But who will make the winning move tonight? Now's your chance to comment below, make your prediction.
Yeah.
Who are you going to go with, Wes?
With this sort of one, I'm going to have to go for. I'm going to probably have to go for Cameron Roberts, I guess. But I'm hoping that Zach can sort of start to bust it up. As I say that, Zach's off the front again. I think he spent most of this race definitely most aggressive. We're going to give him most aggressive. If he's comes away with something tonight, he's most aggressive rider of the night. We'll start to try and maybe put that in effect for the rest of the streams. We'll go on most aggressive rider. Maybe we can have them line up in an aggressive jersey, some sort of allowed outfit for the next race. But also, Ben Go from the Chop organizer and race organizer of that has just informed me that there's already been a W by Troy Herfoss this morning on the Chop. So Troy has already done a race early this morning, and won the handicap style race. So that's, if you're unaware of the Chop, we can explain that a little bit, Pat, can't we? It's sort of the race for everyone. No matter your ability, you can have a crack.
It's everyone's favourite race of the week and favourite stream for us, whereas we get to follow A, B, C, and D grade as they work collectively in their own grade to see if they can ride to victory. And well, we're waiting for that D grade victory. Last week when we streamed, it was C graders that took it out. And it's a different group each week that takes it out, but it's ultimately you are only as strong as the rest of your group. So if your group doesn't help, you got no chance of winning. Zach Johnson on the move again, whereas he doesn't want to leave it.
Doesn't look like he's getting any. He doesn't look like he's getting any help out there because he doesn't need it at the moment. He's holding the really nice high wattage there around that 7 watts per kilo, keeps dipping between 6 and 7 there. So we see Richards on the front here now. So the chase is going to have to start to come 6 seconds a gap now. So if this keeps going out, I mean, it can be easily shut down a gap like this with a big surge. But if it keeps extending out, this could start to be dangerous. And that's where Troy and Cameron Roberts are going to have to start to have a think about this.
No, they have to move right away. This gap out to 8 seconds, and this is the winning move here by Zach Johnson. I think you've predicted the right person here. I know you said Cam Roberts. You hoped Zach could get it done. If he can hold that around 6, 7 watts per kilo, there's no bringing him back because I don't suggest all these riders will have a power up. You can see the finish line now. He powers up himself with an aero power up. Back in the group, Troy Herfoss, he's lifted it now too, Wes.
He's lifted now, and now we've got Cam Roberts behind him, 14 watts per kilo. Looks like he's a little bit of a gap back to Troy. Troy is laying everything down. Aero power up pop now. Zach is still out in front by 6 seconds, and looks like Zach is going to take the win with an aero power up. He had that in his pocket. We've got Troy Herfoss come across for second, M. Davis, and then Roberts in 4th place. So what a finale. I didn't think that Zach would be able to try and get away. I didn't think they would get away on that final bit of a surge through the line there. I guess it was about a K or so to go. I thought for sure that they would have reacted to that, but it looks like Troy has left it too late, but a mighty fine sprint by Troy coming up, and they both had the aero power up. So that obviously had a big role to play there as well, with Zach having the aero power up in the back pocket, using it up the finish straight there, Pat. Certainly worked to his advantage. You've got to know Zwift and you've got to know how to race, and he's certainly got to have the power, and Zach had all of that tonight.
Yeah, and the thing with the work from Zach Johnson there was he made the move that I expected to be made in this E-Crit tonight. I spoke about it with Jesper when we've commentated the Chop on this circuit, and if someone has the guts to go for Glory, a K1.5 to go and put it on the line, they're going to open up that 6 or 7 second gap, and that's just too hard to bring back in that final kilometre on this course. particularly if you've got an aero power. I'm going to give a big shout out to Zach Johnson tonight because that was a brilliant move, a well-deserved victory, and in nice terms, it's about time because he deserves it.
Yeah, there's a fair few comments here on the Facebook as well saying go Zach, right coming into the final there. Go Zach, hold on Zach. Also Paul McKenzie's there also cheering on Zach. So a lot of support behind Zach there. And 27K in 34 minutes. Absolutely mad, lads, says Victor. So thanks, Victor, for tuning in. He's impressed. I'm impressed. And I think we'll certainly see some hot favourites contest next week as well. And also on the 7:10 on